presentation is really focusing much more on the issues that I have sort of experienced as part of my research, or even throughout my career, starting with graduate school beyond, in terms of some of the points of consideration regarding trust and mistrust in the African American community. So it's much less sort of like specific to my research per se, in terms of like data points. Okay, so this is the thing that I often hear people talk about in terms of African Americans. Do African Americans participate in research or not? Do they actually like to or not? True or false? And most people would say, oh no, absolutely, they're not interested, they don't really like to participate in research. But I have not experienced that with my own research. And so this is actually quotes from participants in a research study that I conducted a couple of years ago. So this is one quote. I thought the survey was good. I'm glad you chose me to take the survey. I will be very interested in another one very soon. Thank you. To tell you the truth, I love it and appreciate your effort in helping us young Black men. Keep up the good work. I really think that it's a really good survey for young Black men. I really enjoyed engaging and taking this survey. I highly appreciate it. The survey was very interesting and will be a great deal of information that will better many communities. So these are comments from individuals that participated in a survey study that I conducted with young Black men 18 to 25 who had just gotten out of prison. It's not exactly the population that you would think that would be glowingly talking about the survey. I also did not ask them what they thought about the survey. This was questions at the end of the survey. They asked them for their open commentary about anything. And so this is just a snapshot of many, many, many comments that we got. They were all very positive, very glowing, and very specific about how much they appreciated the survey and also how much they thought that the survey kept into consideration their perspective. And so that's something that we were wanted, and it was something that we planned to do. So I was happy to see that they could recognize the effort and the work that we put into doing that. And I think Monica echoes that in terms of like there's a process and there's work that's put in on the front end to make sure that your work is engaging enough so that there is a trust building in that process. Okay, so again, it really depends on how you design and present your research to the population. So African Americans have a long, long history in this country of mistreatment, regardless of the medical field, but definitely also in medical research. I mean, I think most of you have heard of the Scyatta experiment, but there are many, many other medical studies that have been done where really treated African Americans inappropriately. And so this is something that in terms of orally that people have passed this down through generations, and they just have a complete distrust of research in general because they've heard things, some of it true, some of it stretching the imagination, some of it not true. It's very, very unclear, right? And then also just generally the medical establishment has had a really bad history as well with African American populations in terms of mistreatment, in terms of disparities, also in terms of the way that African Americans are portrayed in the medical establishment. And so there's really not that good relationship there in general. So you really have to be aware of that you're coming in the door with people already not trusting at all, and for good reason. Then we also have the discontent currently, right? We have lots of communities throughout the country that are basically outraged at what's happening in the African American community. Some of it is related to policing, as we know, with a lot of the shootings that are happening. But then generally, like I said, people have interactions with the medical system that have been really horrendous. And so it all feeds into that. Things like the Flint water crisis. These are all things that are happening in communities that people are really outraged about, and they're all intertwined. And they, our work represents that. It's the policies, it's the sort of academic realm, it's the other, it's the power. And so we have to be really aware of that again, it's that wall that's being built up because we represent these individuals. And then, as Monica also mentioned, that people have really bad experiences with academia and with education. So in the school system, a lot of people, whether it be their own experience or the experiences of their children, have been placed in school systems that are basically rotting. They're just sitting there and they're just holding grounds for people to move into the prison system. And so there's this whole body of work that's really talking about the school to prison pipeline, where schools are really just there, the books are out of date, there's no supplies, the teachers hate them, and they're sitting in these schools. And in New York City, we have quote unquote school safety officers, right? And they're actually just NYPD, with a different name. And so the idea is that the kids are sitting there, and if they any minor infraction, they're off, right? And they're going to get potentially have some time, and because the police are right there in the school, ready and waiting to take them. So a lot of people don't have this warm, fuzzy feeling about schools, and even those who get out and are lucky enough to be able to go into college, a lot of African Americans have a really bad experience in college as well. Lots of discrimination, professors that make racist comments, a lot of hostility, and so even people who have some education in college or even a college degree walk out saying, I'm done. So they don't want St. John's University to come to them for anything. They don't want any university to speak to them. So that's another reason why the walls are going to be up. These are symbols of power and potentially hatred to the community. And so you really have to make sure that you come in recognizing that and say, okay, I have to do something to make sure that I break down some of those walls. My experience is that African Americans as a community know a lot about these principles because they've had so many experiences where they've been kind of treated the opposite way. And so we have a lot of opinions about respect. I mean, it's a fact. You mentioned respect, though. Respect is a huge value in the African American community because they've been taken for granted for so long. Same thing in terms of justice. Clearly, we have a lot of injustice going on. And beneficence, right? These are all values that people feel very strongly about. So for me, it's not so much that African Americans do not like research. I think it's a matter of really engaging them in a way where they feel like their perspective is being taken into consideration because they really do feel very strongly about those values. So for me, the idea is really the engagement, the commitment that you have to the population and to the work, and to making sure that people understand that and recognize what your value is. Now, you may not feel this way, right? And so this isn't for you. Like, kind of put it down and just pin it and say, that's a nice presentation. This is not my kind of work. And there are some researchers like that. They don't believe in this. But if you do, I do think that there is sort of like a way to go about it. And I think Monica has done exactly the same thing when both of us, I think, are just learned in the trenches. This is like kind of like, I kind of have to make this happen. So for me, I really believe that having a perspective that really focuses sort of the foundation is really from an African American Black perspective, sort of the mindset, the way that you look at things, the way that you consider your research. It's from framing from that, not necessarily a Western perspective, but framing it from that and then moving it outward. And that to me is much more of a culturally relevant way of looking about things. So understanding what the norms and the attitudes are, you talk a lot about that, and really understanding like what the community is thinking, feeling, understanding. These are the things that will help drive what it is that you're doing, how they actually live their lives. Not only will it help you with your research questions, but understanding how to even present the research, right? Because you talk about the cognitive, the timing, and the orientation, and these are all things that actually matter, no matter what kind of research you do. So one of the things that, I'm just gonna go through a couple things that I've done that have helped me, and some of it is because just trial and error, and some of it is also from looking at other people that I either worked with when I was more junior or heard like from colleagues that are my peers that worked with other people that were more senior, and they did the opposite, and we saw the disaster happening in front of us. And particularly for those of us who are researchers of color, sometimes we get to hear things that other people don't get to hear. Either the community feels more comfortable telling us, or somehow we get the brunt of it more, or whatever it is. And so we end up realizing, okay, people don't appreciate X, Y, and Z. And so for me, I've kind of learned over time, these are things that are working better. Because just because I'm Black, that's not going to be it. That's not going to cut it for most people. So the first thing is really learning from the community about what they want and what they need. And in particular, how you conduct the research and how you disseminate what it is that you're finding. So one of the things that I've started to do, or over the years I've done, is every time I'm kind of pivoting my research area, not every research project, but if I'm pivoting my research area, I will hold a town hall meeting. And what that means is basically I have community contacts, whether it's one person or 100 people, whoever I possibly know in the community or in that understands the population that I'm working with, and I'll say, okay, I'm hosting a meeting, and it won't be at St. John's. It will be at a community setting that's more neutral, and we'll have food, and we'll be there. And the idea is just to say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do in a very, low-key kind of way, no big jargon. And I'm interested in youth, and I really want to know what the issues are that are pressing to you in this area. And I focus on health, but just tell me what you think, And then they give me their ideas and et cetera, and I kind of explain the process of what I do. I'm going to do some research. Maybe I'll ask them to do some interviews. Maybe I'll do some surveys, and this information I'm hoping I will be able to share with people who create programs, like some of the agencies that you work with. And this is what I'm looking to do over the next couple of years. I don't have anything set in stone now, but I'm thinking of my ideas, and you guys are helping me. And that's how I do it. And then I just leave. I don't come in with a research project right away, because I feel like sometimes people feel like they're under the gun, or like this is when you are getting ready to take your golden leave, you go in already. And so it does take a little pre-planning, because this is like way before you've got anything going on. And if you got grant deadlines, then that really puts pressure on you. You've got to talk to people before you even write a grant. But it's worked for me in many ways. A, because I've gotten great ideas, but B, also, like, if I get into a pinch with recruitment or anything else community related, there's a group of people that I know, that I've met with, and I can start to understand the fabric. Who are the players? Who are the people you can trust? Who are the people who can pull the levers that make things happen in the communities because of these meetings, that there's no pressure for any one-on-one. And then the thing that I also try to do is keep in touch with people through whatever contact information I've collected. And that is, A, you disseminate your findings, but also, like, if I hear that there's a health fair in the community, or there's a scholarship happening, or there's a, something for the youth that's happening, then I share it. So I get lots of information, because people know what I do, and they know what I'm interested in. I have lots of connections, and I just share it with as many people as possible. And so it's kind of a way for me to be able to showcase, I'm not just here for me, I want to be some type of repository for what you do. Now, at the same turn, I've learned that I'm not going to be doing everything. So I let them know that these are where the boundaries are. Like, we can share lots of information, we can do this, but we can't, like, set up your community group, or we can't, like, there's certain things that we can and can't do. And I've recognized that people are fine with it. They understand you have a job to do, and you can't be everything to everyone. But as long as you are visible in some type of way, I think people really appreciate that a lot. And just like Monica, I make sure that I definitely meet the people that I'm engaging in research with at least once, because I've learned that people also mistrust that a lot. They want to know, who's the person behind this? Who's the person's name that actually formed this form, right? And they want to meet you. The other thing, too, is utilizing community outlets. So I know that lots of people understand that in a lot of communities there are people who are that have their own businesses, and a lot of African American communities, small businesses are really important. They're vibrant, because people can't get mainstream jobs. This is the way that people survive. And the people that own businesses are leaders in the community. So it's not just about having access to the space or whatever. It's also being able to recognize that this barbershop person is a leader in the community, or particularly barbershops and hair salons. People really trust them. They talk to them. They know everyone. A lot of the barbershops and hair salons have been there for generations, and so they really are trusted people in the community. So even if you're doing a health project, it doesn't mean you can't engage with the barbershops, even if you're not doing research in barbershops, because I know people do that sometimes too. But getting to know those people, churches, mosques, local businesses, can be really important, because they can help you with recruitment and disseminating the information that you're doing. So for our project, obviously we use some of the community agencies and sites for recruitment purposes, but then we also use them as resources for some of our study activities. So we usually hosted any of our meetings at the libraries, and it sounds a little strange, but actually, particularly in Brooklyn, the community uses the library. Like, you will see lots of people, lots of young people, lots of older people, anyone that you can possibly find in the library. In the summertime, it's a cool place to be. But they have computers, they have books, and lots of people utilize the library. So the librarians actually know the community really well. So we made sure to have our meetings there. We would talk to the librarians and the library staff about what we were doing. So when we came in, like, hey, this is the Beats crew, this is what they do. And when we finished our research, we would make sure to let them know what we were doing, and they would allow us to be able to have our flyers there. So again, it's a place that you can get information out to the community. We also utilized Shakur's Sweet Tooth, which was a caterer / restaurant in Bed-Stuy, owned by African Americans, and they were very well known in the community. And Shakur himself actually was formerly incarcerated, so our project was focused on the formerly incarcerated. And so he had a really good story of being formerly incarcerated for many years, turning his life around, starting this restaurant, becoming very well known in the community, and giving back. And so for us, we really wanted to, A, give back to him, but also he's somebody, a pillar in the community that really meets the cause that we were really interested in. And then also engaging with a community foundation for events that we were throwing in the community, which I'll talk a little bit later, that my community advisory board highly encouraged me to do. Again, unrelated to the project, but again, trying to immerse myself in the community. So I also had a community advisory board. You guys talked about that, I'm sure. We had a whole day on community advisory board members. My community advisory board for this particular project was not the population itself. And the reason why was because the research project itself ended up having a lot of questions that were advisory within itself as well anyway. So I didn't necessarily feel like it was losing their voice, because there was like a whole segment about their opinions about certain topics. But these were individuals who engaged a lot with the population, whether they ran a community agency, whether they worked in the schools. One of them was a doctor who was in the community, and that was her entire population, was an adolescent center. Dr. Devon Pryor is actually formerly incarcerated himself, and his entire organization, all of the staff members from himself, which is the executive director, on down, all of them are formerly incarcerated, and their purpose is to work on advocacy and public policy around reentry. And so, even though he is a doctor, that's all he does is incarceration. And so for me, I thought it was very important to make sure to have people not only who are the voice of the community, but can get the word out to the community about what we're doing and shape change, which is why I had someone who was from the Brooklyn Borough President's office involved, because if there was something that had to do with policy, they would be able to pick up on it. Or if they were at a meeting that had nothing to do with our project, but it would keep their tentacles up about, oh, you know what, incarceration is important, health is important, HIV is important, because now they've engaged in our project and they've learned more. So I thought a little bit differently about the community advisory board than I think sometimes people think. I thought of it more as advocacy than just getting opinions. The other thing that our project did was we conducted evaluations of our CAB. And this is not like, research, ready for, we are going to try to publish it, but it's not like a really fancy evaluation. This was basically just for us to get a better understanding of how the CAB process was going. Did they feel like they were actually getting anything out of it? Did they want us to do anything more with the project? We didn't want to make any assumptions. So we did a qualitative piece and we did a quantitative piece. These were some of the ideas that they had at the very beginning. They thought that we should engage more with them with more resources and more minutes and more information. I thought I was going to be boring them to tears with extra information, but they actually wanted it. So we made sure to keep that and to make sure to have that going, so that we had that repository for them to get more information. We asked them questions, a quantitative evaluation as well, to get specific answers about things. And in particular, we wanted to know, because I thought about the advocacy piece, how much that they had worked with each other, or how much our work had informed the work that they were doing outside of our research project. And we were able to find out that, yes, a good number of them were actually really engaging in this. And in particular, I really appreciated the fact that they worked with each other on things, they shared information with each other, and that, so they became their own sort of group, even though they didn't know each other when they came in, which was, I think, very important, because that once I left, then they could still continue to share with each other, even if they never met anymore. This project was CDC funded, so it was hoping you didn't laugh and right. So it was, yeah, we had to get CDC, and we also had to get OMB approval, so it was a whole other thing. But yes, we were able to get exemption for the CAB evaluation. So one of the years, one of our CAB members in the qualitative evaluation said, yes, I think we should have something happen within us in between meetings. I don't know what it is, but I think that it should be something that allows us to see each other in different ways and in different circumstances. We have resources around here we don't even know what we have and we're not utilizing, and we have to find a way to do that. How about if we put together an event utilizing solely the resources at this table? Yeah, that's a good idea. So I thought to myself, well, the last thing I need is another project. But if they were really excited about it, so I said, okay guys, I cannot be doing this for you all, but I will definitely facilitate whatever it is you need and get the resources together. And so we started this thing where we started these projects called Impact, where we would have projects that were youth related because they were really, really focused on wanting to do something for youth, particularly those who were under 18, because they felt like before that, after that, they would be lost. But they still wanted to have something related to incarceration and HIV, but not necessarily specifically that. So we did a lot of projects focused on substance use prevention. We did a project where we looked at policing and youth relations. We had police officers come in and talk to young people about how they engage in their perspective so that they could understand a little bit more from a police perspective how sometimes it can be really frightening for them, and we had a chance to engage with them. We had a project where we looked at violence, gun violence, and gang violence, because a number of our CAP members, that was their area of expertise. They were former gang members. And so, and then we just did this once a year. It wasn't like every week we were doing these things, but it helped them realize, okay, this project is taking 1,000 years, and they don't like that slow process. This feels like we're actually doing something, and we're coming together. Because they really wanted to keep moving, to feel vibrant. And the last thing that we did after the project was over is we hosted sort of a mini conference, and that was at St. John's. And that was to bring together all of the resources that we had to talk about this issue of HIV prevention among incarcerated populations. And actually, the interesting thing was a number of agencies brought their clients, which I thought was great, because initially the target population we had decided as a group with the CAB and myself was the agency staff, because we wanted to be able to sort of change the way that they looked at incarcerated and re-entry populations, for them to make HIV a radar, something on their radar screen. And so we thought, go to the people who serve them and educate them about the risk. But then many of them brought their clients too, so it was a really engaging thing. So we had a lot of people. We had a film screening, and then we had someone from Rikers Island come and talk, and then we had one of our CAB members come and talk, and we had someone who was an HIV counselor who had done a lot of work with incarcerated populations, just to talk about what they saw on the ground. And then we had a whole sort of roundtable discussion where people had a chance to kind of talk and everything. So that was our way of sort of formally rolling out the information into the community, in addition to going back to all of the recruitment sites, letting them know what we found, making sure that we sent out information in little bullets to the contact list that we have, that kind of thing. So really engaging with the community from the top to the bottom was really important, and that's why we got the responses we got, because of course, as you all learned from your CAB conversation, they told us how to, what types of questions, how to word it, the order, like they gave us all that feedback, and so it really made sense for the population. I've worked with African American youth populations for years, but not necessarily incarcerated populations, so they really helped me with framing that, because there are some differences. The other thing too that I'm really working on, and this is a sticking point for me that I'm still trying to work on, is considering the stigmatizing potential of my findings. Because I have a lot of findings that are, there's a lot of stuff going on, and you want to get it out as a health professional, like 911, please stop this behavior. It's really risky. But then at the same time, how you frame it is either going to potentially really stigmatize the community even further, or even in some way, that this is the kind of thing the media would love. It's like, put it out there and really, make it over the top. And so I really have to be thinking about how I frame the findings in a way where I'm not blaming the participants or over-sensationalizing something, but I'm also staying true to what we're finding, because there is some serious health risks that are happening in the communities. And it's still a tough one. It's a tough tension that I'm working on, and my CAB members are helping me with that. And then I try to think about things ahead of time too with presentations, because that can get sticky too when you're doing a presentation. And with my group, I always get the questions about sex in prison. Like, people, like, I'm putting my data up and I don't even barely have the question on it. 15 hands go up. Okay, well, what about all the sex in prison? And I was like, stop it, people, because that's also something that's being over-sensationalized with some TV shows and that kind of thing. So just be thinking, even if it's not your data per se, but it's just the topic or the population, and people sometimes get carried away, even researchers, with whatever they've been watching on TV or their own stereotypes. So just be mindful of how you respond to the questions, because you want to make sure that you're respecting the population and answering the question appropriately. So the other thing that I've been trying to do, and it's a work in progress, is trying to help the community understand the benefits of research outside of my research project itself, right? And that's my thing of saying, this is who I am, this is what I know. And I think research is really helpful, and I would love people to have a better, it's like branding research in a more positive way, right? So one of the things that I do try to do is find places to disseminate to community outlets. One of the things that I did one time, I had a project that I did. It was a study. It was actually secondary data analysis. And I took the paper and I just kind of made it into something that was like community friendly, or like, bullets. Black girls are using drugs to feel good because they don't feel good about themselves. That obviously was not the research title, but that was my community. And that was the entire page. It was not longer than that, right? I just summed down the research this way. And I sent it to all my community list. And then a couple of days later, I got a phone call from a writer at Essence Magazine who wanted to put together a piece in the magazine around this whole issue. Now, the article was not about my research. The article was about the issue of colorism, which is what my paper was about, but it kind of helped to inspire the writer to do something about it, and then they added like a little blurb in the whole article, but it didn't matter, because my point was this was an important finding, and I wanted the community to be more aware of this issue in general. And so every time I do a paper, I do the same thing. I just kind of cut it down into something easy, and then just send it to everyone that's on this mega list that I have. The other thing too is that you can also do webinars, right? And again, one of the things that I'm really getting excited about is there's all these service providers that are working in our field that this is like training for them, or even just extra information, even if you aren't able to get continuing education credits. Some of them are really interested in these topics, and so doing webinars, I do some work around girls, and so doing webinars around girls and cultural confidence, and even if I'm citing Monica's work, it doesn't matter. I'm giving them information that they don't already have, because I have my research hat on and I know all of these things that they may not have access to. So trying to at least give some of my time in that area. And then also developing a way to present lay-friendly presentations about what research is. What is it? Because it sounds really scary. And so just to give them ideas of, okay, these are the types of research studies that have been done. This is how it can be helpful to the community. These are some of the interventions that have come out of it. And an intervention is just a community program that you might get that you can, do exercises, or they can have plays, or they can have basketball league, but they also teach them things, and just so people can understand what it actually is. And sometimes I've done this with people that are going to be in my research, like potential participants. Sometimes I've done it with the staff. Sometimes I've just done it as sort of like a town hall one-on-one before I do this, give me your answers. And so it does help. It does help just for people to kind of percolate a little bit. And then lastly, I will say share your expertise with the community as much as you can. Again, some people are better, others at doing this. Obviously, Elizabeth is the queen expert in doing this. I've definitely put my foot in a little bit in trying to write in more lay-friendly places about research, not necessarily just mine, because then that's not really quote-unquote journalism, but other people's stuff. And so Agrio.com is a pretty well-known establishment for African-American thought. And so every now and then there will be a study that comes out or a report that comes out that might be interesting, and so I may write for what they call the health section. And basically it's just, putting it into more lay-friendly terms, something that the community should know about. And then I might, if I happen to know someone who is in that field, I actually called my own gynecologist for this one, just to get some quotes, just to say, do you know someone? Or if I don't know people, I'll pick up the phone, and thankfully, because I am Dr. Wallace, they'll answer and say, I'm writing this for so-and-so. It doesn't take that long, actually, but I think I just may have that ability to do that. But you might. Just give it a try. You just never know. And these outlets are dying for people to do this kind of stuff. And then also I built a relationship with the BET Wrap It Up campaign over the years. And the Wrap It Up campaign was BET's Black Entertainment Television, and they had established this campaign for African American youth to let them know about HIV. And so decades long they've been doing this work, and most youth knew about the Wrap It Up campaign. And so I worked with them to help them fine-tune what they were doing, keep up to date with the research, and then also doing panels for their forums. And then I also, when I was with the APA committee, psychology committee of psychology and AIDS, we worked together with the Wrap It Up campaign to develop some items for what they were doing. And so that was a good avenue to be able to get work out to the field. The lady on the right is actually Rose Aka, who was one of my research students. And so she was actually on this TV show, which was called 106 in Park, providing HIV/AIDS education. She was part of my research team, and so they had asked for a young voice. And so she was part of that particular programming the year before I was on there. And so we just really tried our best to say, okay, not only do we work in the community, but we understand the community, and we're really going to try our best to reach out as much as possible to the community, whether that be the smaller community or the larger community. And it helps because it allows the community to feel like you actually understand them, but then you also understand the community so much more. Like from being on the Wrap It Up panels, I was able to understand just how much young people just really have no clue about HIV. They still don't have the education. They still are very clueless about sexuality and healthy relationships, and so it keeps you on your toes, and again makes the research that you're doing much more real. So for me, I think is her name Peg Weeks? Mm-hmm. She happened to say something at the very first day about building trust and how it was like building a bridge, and it's a really process. And I feel the exact same way. It's such a process, but to me, it's a wonderful process. It's a lot of work, but it's gratifying work. And if this is something that you're really interested in, I say go in, like all the way in, because it's so beneficial. I feel totally enriched by doing this type of work, and I encourage you to begin your careers doing it. I think both Monica and I kind of we found our way, but hopefully you can, if you're not already doing it, start out this way, because it's
you'll be ahead of the game.
Yeah, you'll be way ahead of the game. Your work is going to be phenomenal from doing that. So you all already have my contact information, so you know how to find me if you have questions. One of the things that we did want to do, other than any specific questions you have about our work, is to find out from you all if you have thought about, or if you haven't to be thinking about some of the cultural factors that are going to be impacting your work. What are some of the cultural factors? What are some of the historical and contemporary issues that are happening right now? I mean, we had a little brief conversation about Puerto Rico and what's going on there, and that might be impacting how you're able to do your work. And then also the stigmatization of your findings, if you can start to think about that now, how you might be able to disseminate your results if you haven't already been doing that or been thinking about that. What are some avenues or ways that you can be doing that? Being proactive about that now is a really good way to start. And it did a lot of upfront work, but then in the end it ends up kind of